Okay, so I got another fun question from a client, and maybe not so much a question as an observation, which led to a conversation about reverse dieting. So if you are wanting to learn a little bit more about reverse dieting, or if you are one of those women who has been in a calorie deficit, you've been dieting for months or years, and you are doing the right things, but you just feel like you're not getting results, this is going to be a little conversation from you. So I'm actually going to read some of the conversation, no names or anything. This is totally anonymous, but I'm going to read the conversation that I had between myself and this client because I checked in with her. She is doing one of my custom written training plans. So she's strength training 3 times a week. So here's what she says. I've been doing the strength training 3 times a week, and then something else on the other days. So probably walking or something like that. So, and she's trying to get at least 10,000 steps per day. Awesome. Perfect. She says she thinks her nutrition has been on track most days. Now, I did not do a dietary assessment with her and a meal plan. So usually with a client who's only doing a workout plan, I just try to give them a minimal amount of coaching about what they should be doing. So definitely touching on, reaching protein targets and stuff like that. And I tell them if they need help in the future, we can go that direction too. So she says she's still not really thinking she's seeing results. So she's not seeing pounds drop off, but she is feeling good and stronger. And I want to commend her for not making it all about the scale. The fact that she's noticing that she is feeling good and she's feeling stronger, that's awesome. You are on the right track if you are feeling stronger in your workouts. If you are able to push more weight in your workouts, you're on the right track. But she says, it's really frustrating as my husband started to diet and only eats 1 meal per day and lost close to 30 pounds. It's annoying, but I know I'm doing it the right way. So here is my response. I know that's frustrating, and it's also very typical. Your progress is going to look very different from his. Men can easily eliminate meals and still maintain relatively good hormonal balance. It's just not proven to do the same for women. If you feel stronger, you are on the right track. If you start to get nervous, try a mini cut. Now, I recommended this whole conversation. You're going to see this all kind of get played out, but I recommended this mini cut before I realized that she was already in quite a steep calorie deficit. But if you start to get nervous, this is still my response, try a mini cut. This will essentially amount to knocking 200 to 300 calories off of your current daily intake for about 2 weeks. You should see your scale start to move. If you are actually in a deficit, your scale is going to move down, okay? This is more for the mental proof that your body can lose weight. So when I get a client who is kind of down and out about the fact that they're not seeing it in their scale, if they've been lifting for long enough and if they're eating the right way, then I'll have them do a mini cut. And just prove to them that if we can shave off somewhere between 250 and 300 calories a day, we will start to see that scale move. So again, this is more for the mental proof that your body can lose weight. I'd have you go back to normal caloric intake after the 2 weeks, keep training hard and focusing on strength and building your metabolism. So building your metabolism by eating at maintenance. Okay, this is what that means. By eating at maintenance and also lifting weights so that you are building muscle. Your muscle is your metabolic machinery. If you can, ladies, if you can build muscle, you will increase your metabolic rate. Okay, I'm going to get off that soapbox. Okay, then come spring, after you've been lifting really hard, so you're working hard in the gym and you're eating at least maintenance, maybe even a little bit above, you can do a 6-week cut. But you don't want to be cutting for longer than that because you not stunt your metabolism, but your body, the human body, is great at adapting. Okay, it's an adaptation machine. So whatever you're doing for a long period of time, your body is simply going to adjust its thermostat up or down to match. So bottom line, if you remain in a deficit for too long, your metabolic rate simply adapts to burn that many calories. Your hubby should also be careful of this. I have heard that cycling in and out of OMAD, so OMAD is 1 meal a day. I have heard that cycling in and out of OMAD is a much better way to do things, because even though her husband's his system is a little bit more, I should say a little less sensitive when it comes to the hormonal stuff that can happen when you do too much fasting. Like for women, especially if you're in perimenopause and menopause, not necessarily a great thing for you to do a lot of fasting, especially because if you're training, you're trying to get enough protein too. It's really hard to eat enough protein if you're only eating 1 or 2 meals a day. But men, you can also have trouble if you start eating only 1 meal a day, and if during that meal you cannot eat enough calories. So yes, you are initially going to shed body fat. And if you're not strength training, you're also going to shed a significant amount of muscle. I figure I'd throw that in there. You're getting a lot of good stuff here. But men, if you are operating in a deficit like that, and you are not strength training, yes, you are going to lose scale weight very quickly, but eventually your metabolic rate is simply going to adjust. And then from there, you'll plateau, which maybe you're at a happy weight, which is awesome. But if you were to stop doing OMAD and you start eating 2 or 3 meals a day again, and your caloric rate goes up, even if it's only up by a little bit, you are going to start to regain weight. So you have to be careful about how long you're doing something like OMAD. It should be something that you cycle in and out of. So, okay. So she says, okay, that's a good idea. So how many calories is a good goal? 1,200 per day? I'd say I can range from 1,000 to 1,500 calories a day. So that would be her current maintenance. What would you recommend? 1,000 calories for the next couple of weeks? And here's my response. I was hoping your calories weren't that low. I typically won't even allow a client to do a mini cut until I've got them training and maintaining their weight at 2,000 calories per day. Now, I want to preface this by saying that this client, she is over 5'5". She is in her 40s, and she is over 160 pounds. So she should be eating 2,000 calories a day, and she should be maintaining her current weight at a minimum of 2,000 calories per day. So I said, I hate to have you drop your calories to 1,000. That's borderline unethical. 1,200 is not much better. This is probably the reason you aren't losing weight. It's very hard to keep cutting and cutting and cutting. Your body just keeps adjusting the dial down to meet your intake. You can try dropping the calories for 2 weeks to see what happens if you want to, but I don't recommend it. Even 1,500 calories per day is bare minimum and doesn't give you a very good place to cut from. I would recommend a reverse diet. You can look it up to learn more about what it is and the philosophy behind it. I do help people with this as a service. So if you want to dive in, let me know and we'll talk cost. Essentially, a reverse diet is where you build your caloric intake up slowly while strength training. The strength training part is important so that you don't gain a lot of body fat. And you do that until your metabolic rate stabilizes and you are eating at least 2,000 calories per day without your weight shifting too much either way. This can take months. So even a year or more to accomplish. And it's really dependent on how far you have been operating in a deficit. So if I get somebody who's been eating 1,000 calories or less per day, it can take us more than 6 months just to get them back up to maintenance so that they don't gain a whole bunch of body fat in the process. Like, I'm never going to tell somebody who's eating 1,000 calories a day, like, hey, tomorrow you need to eat 2,000 calories per day. Because yeah, you're going to gain body fat pretty quickly doing that. So it's going to be a slow rebuild process. This can take months, even a year or more to accomplish, depending on how long you've been eating in too much of a deficit. Then you can cut again. You cycle back and forth between bulks, where you rebuild your metabolic rate, and cuts, where you lower it back down again to shed body fat. You should never be in a cut for more than 6 weeks. Just period. You should never be in a cut for more than 6 weeks. So all of the women out there who have been dieting for years, who have been in a deficit for years, unfortunately, you were told wrong. You shouldn't be cutting for more than a few weeks at a time. I said, I know that's a lot to take in. Do some reading about reverse dieting. It often takes quite a bit of convincing to get women to eat more than they're used to. You have to be 100% on board. It's a mental game. It really turns into a mental game because there's that fear of gaining weight. And here's what she says. I track my food and get her protein and fiber in, but sounds like I need to be eating more calories. So I should be at least 2,000. I eat and I feel full, so she doesn't feel like she's starving. And she lists 3 times, like the plan I put together for her. And right now she told me something about her weights, the current weights that she's lifting. And she's working up to where she feels comfortable. And then she says, maybe this is why I'm not losing weight, but eating more makes me nervous. I don't want to gain weight. And I told her, keep working on the weights and working hard in the gym. Stay consistent with your 3 workouts per week. It sounds like you're doing great there. And then I said, yes, ideally your maintenance calories should be at 2,000 or higher. I know it's scary and you need to be really mentally ready and committed before you start a reverse diet. It's going to be really easy for you, especially if you're getting on the scale. And here's the other thing that I would tell somebody who's going to do a reverse diet. If you feel like getting on your scale is going to make you feel so awful and scared that you're going to quit the reverse diet, like either don't start the reverse diet until you're 100% sure that that's the direction that you're ready to go, or get rid of your scale. Because here's the thing, when you start eating a little bit more, yes, your weight is going to fluctuate. It's going to go up a little bit. Some days it's going to go down a little bit. You will not, I promise, if you are doing this process correctly, you will not gain a ton of body fat. As you work your way up slowly, you might see little fluctuations up in the scale. But it's not going to be huge. It's not what you imagine. You're not going to gain 500 pounds. As long as you're not doing things like binging, okay? You're doing this as a slow process. You're lifting weights. So your body is going to hopefully take those extra calories and it's going to funnel it into building muscle. So again, yes, ideally your maintenance calories should be at 2,000 or higher. I know it's scary and you need to be really mentally ready. If you've been eating only 1,200 calories per day, so like I kind of averaged that out, she said between 1,000 and 1,500 is what she was eating. So I averaged that at about 1,200. You need to slowly increase your calories so you don't gain excess weight in the process of the reverse diet. So I would start somebody out reverse dieting by adding 50 to 100 calories per day. And I mean, like literally that is a half of a tablespoon to a tablespoon of olive oil. It's literally nothing. So you have to be careful. Like you can't just like go crazy. So I would do that for the first week. And then the next week I would add another 50 to 100 per day. And then I would do that until I reached my maintenance calorie goal, which for her, we would say, okay, maybe it's 2,000. I'd actually like to see it at 2,200. And then you have to stay at maintenance for a little while. So I would tell her that you probably need to stay at maintenance. Again, I know this is hard because everybody wants their weight loss like right now or yesterday, so I get it. But you need to stay at maintenance for probably 3 to 6 months. And your weight is going to stabilize at that maintenance. And here's the thing. A lot of times when women start eating more and they're lifting, they actually find they're like, yeah, my weight didn't go up at all. My weight actually went down because they start eating more and they're lifting. So their body is actually putting those calories into building muscle. Muscle is that metabolically active tissue. So I don't know how the inner processes all work when it comes to, our metabolism because it's so complex. But I do know that a lot of times when women start to eat more and they're strength training, their weight, the body fat actually starts to drop off. You do have to do this mindfully though. What I do tell her to focus on, again, getting rid of the scale, if that's really going to bother you, it is a metric. It can kind of help you see what's happening. If you were to start to gain weight really fast, then again, I would have you kind of back off a little bit on the reverse diet and we'd try to maintain where you built and we'd stay there for a little bit and then we'd start that process again. So the scale can be helpful to make sure that you're not gaining weight too fast. But what people typically see when they're doing this the right way is that their weight just it might go up a couple of pounds through your weight might go up maybe 5 to 8 pounds through the whole 6-month process. But it really isn't going to go up more than that. And again, a lot of those extra calories are going to be shunted toward, if you're lifting, those calories are going to be used to help you build muscle. So you're going to give your body those raw materials so that it can build. And so I tell her to focus on, you should notice improvements in your strength in the gym when reverse dieting. So when you are reverse dieting, this is where you should really focus in on your training. Do I feel better? Do I have more energy? Am I sleeping better? Do I feel like I'm gaining strength in the gym? And that is a good thing. That's a really good indicator. If you're gaining strength in your lifts in the gym, if you're able to push heavier weights, that's a really good indicator that you're on the right track. So again, I know for those women out there who have been dieting for a long time, I see this so much. I really see this so much. And it's heartbreaking because you get a woman who is still maybe having 30, 40, 50 pounds to lose, and they're only eating 1,200 calories per day. And they're like, well, I'm only eating 1,200 calories. I don't understand why I'm not losing weight anymore. And again, the body is just an adaptation machine. I mean, imagine if it was 150 years ago. That served us really well because there might have been a time where we would go through a famine or there would be food scarcity. So humans, we are built for starvation. We are not built to deal with our current life situation or the current world situation where we have food everywhere and we have hyper palatable and very calorie dense and very tasty food everywhere. So our bodies just don't really know how to deal with that. We're not adapted for that. So you just have to remember that like whatever you're telling the body to do. So if you're eating too low calories for too long, your body's simply going to adapt down. It does not mean you have a broken metabolism. Okay, so you can turn it around. You just have to do it mindfully. You have to do it slowly. The other thing I will tell you is you have to track. So if you're one of those people who's like, track, I don't want to track, like that's, if you feel like that's too involved. But if you're stuck in this place, you are probably going to have to track. Not only to see what you're currently eating, like how many calories, if you're stalled out, how many calories are you actually currently eating? And I would say about half the time when somebody starts tracking, they actually find that they're not undereating, they're overeating because they're not tracking. They're not thinking about all of the little things that they eat throughout the day. Like when they're making their kids sandwich in the morning and they're eating like the crust of the peanut butter and jelly that they cut off their kids' sandwich. They don't count that stuff in their mind. So when you actually start tracking, you'll find out like, have I been really operating in a deficit for a long time? Or am I still actually kind of overeating? And what are you doing on the weekends? Are you overeating on weekends and kind of blowing your deficit that you have during the week? So you're going to find out all of these things through tracking. If you do find out that you are eating too little and you've been operating in a deficit for too long and your metabolic rate is actually probably a little bit too low, that's when you can say, okay, I'm going to track and I'm going to add that 50 to 100 calories per day for week 1. And you can kind of figure out like what do you need to add into your diet to start slowly inching your metabolic rate up. Okay. So again, this is something that I can help you with. We can do a dietary assessment on you where you track for me, and I can work with you to figure this out if it's something that you feel like you're really struggling with, if you've plateaued. I also do custom fitness programs for people. So based on the equipment that you have available to you, or even if you go to a local gym, if you're able to let me know the type of equipment that you have access to, I can write programs based on all that and based on your fitness level. So if you have questions for me, I hope you found this helpful. You can reach me at kellybailey1980@gmail.com. Hope you guys have a good day.